What's happening, everybody? To all my makers out there, guys and gals, welcome to another edition of Nick's Late Night Garage. And here we are in the garage. And unfortunately, last night I had some issues with one of my X1 carbons. And about 94% through a print job, I ended up having an issue where, as I was doing a filament change, a piece of filament broke off in the extruder. And so we're going to have to do a extruder teardown this evening to get it back into service and get it installed. And so the one that is having issues is this guy right here. I've got it powered down. We're going to pull it out from where it's at, bring it over to the workbench, and then we're going to start doing the extruder teardown here in a few minutes. But yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've had to do this. The unit that had the issue, I've had that unit for over a year now, and it's been printing very, very well for me. And very consistently. The job was looking actually pretty good before it did have failure. And so we're going to kind of get into it here in a little bit. I think I heard one of my cameras beep. But it looks like the feeds are still going, so now they're doing it there. So now for each one of the AMSs that's tied here, I do have quick disconnects. And what's cool about it is it doesn't matter where they're tied to because it's all going to be synced. So I'm just removing the quick disconnects on the back. 1, 2. That goes to the top one. Pull that out so I can access it. There's 3. The 4th one. Here. Oh, if I get over the top. There we go. Disconnect from power, and we're going to remove the main AMS cable that goes to the other units. So we have that completely disconnected. All right, so looking at it from the top down, the piece of filament that I have broken off inside here is actually going to be down inside the extruder itself. So we're going to have to tear the unit apart, get whatever's broken in there that's blocking the sensor, and then rebuild it. I'll move the other camera real quick. Those. Looks like my camera's died, so let me get those restarted real quick. Okay. Connection board connection reset. I think what I may need to do is I may need to bring a unit down here in order to get the network to be a little bit more stable. So I'm going to stop streaming on those. Stop the live stream mode. Disconnect the 2 cameras. So we're going to connect the 2 cameras again. Turn back to idle. I'm going to start live stream mode, wait for them to time out and fail for the first go, and then we'll reset them for the second go. Actually, they didn't fail that time. Interesting. They went right to ready. Okay, now I think we're back into business. So, sorry about that. Had a little bit of camera issues, and so now that the cameras are back and running, so we disconnected the hot end assembly. So it's going to be 1, 2, and 3 connectors. I'm going to go ahead and remove the hot end assembly. And as you can see, it's like the job that I still have it on the build plate, and I love the PEI plate because it's like these things are just going to pull off. And so these actually could still be usable by the brewery. I'm going to take them down there and just see if Scott wants to keep them, if he can have them on hand. But it's like they don't look too bad. Let me get a little bit closer. But, I mean, they're not a completely finished product, but, you know, not worried about it for right now. If Scott wants to use them, Scott can use them. But my principal concern is just getting this X1 carbon back into service. So once we have those taken apart, I'm going to pull the hot end out. And I need to rebuild the hot ends with the high flow by Revo, or by the E3D. So take that 2 of the E3D hot ends for the high flow, and I'm looking forward to getting those installed into the unit. But not something I'm going to worry about tonight. And these guys were actually loose. Hopefully there's not filament jammed in there and I won't be able to pull it out, which it's fine. So we pull our hot end assembly. I'm going to pull a silicon sock out just to make sure everything's clean underneath. Everything looks good. I'm going to pop the silicon sock back on. And I'll set that hot end assembly off to the side. Now for these extruders, the connector for it does come pre-glued from Bambu. So we're going to pull that glue, gently pry that connector off. I don't know why they glue those things on there, especially if you need to do warranty repair work. Maybe it's just because the tool head just keeps moving so quickly that, you know, it needs to stay attached. You know, it looks like one of my cameras died from my top down. And so check that camera to make sure that camera's back up and running. See it refreshed. It looks like it has refreshed. I think I just need to bring one of my Google Nest hubs down here and get it set up in the garage so I have better network throughput, even though the main station is literally right above us, and the network hub for the house, which is in the master closet. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto the Bambu Wiki. Get my profile scenes, get it up here so I can monitor it. In case one of the camera's dies and needs to be refreshed. Filament and broken extruder. So step one, I already tried to do that yesterday. Nothing really happened out of that. So replacing the hot end assembly, and so I'm not worried about changing the nozzle out. I want to take a look at the clog in the extruder, except let's see if I can get better things from the support, because I prefer like step-by-step from versus, you know, watching some of the videos. Videos are good for like reference, and especially kind of like what I'm doing here with you guys is creating reference videos. Not what I was looking for. But, you know, I'm not even going to worry about it right now. We're just going to go ahead and fiddle around. Come on. There we go. Hopefully we don't lose video feed again. And so inside here, I've got to remove the extruder assembly, pull the extruder assembly out, and then figure out where this blockage is at. And it says there's a sensor in there, and that sensor is what is prompting the error. Oh, that's not good. Oh no. Where did you go? Tell me it down here. Oh, I see it. Makes me want to go grab my magnetic stuff, so I'm going to grab a couple good affinity bends. So I can keep track of these things. So I'm kind of curious to know if it was that my two anchoring screws were the culprit for this failure. You can see on my watch it is 11:06 in the evening here, West Coast time. So I removed the depressor for the shark bite for the PTFE tubing. Let's see. All right, and so as you can see, as I pull that out, there is that piece of filament that is stuck right there. And so this is the magnetic switch right before it goes down into the actual extruder teeth gearing, or the knurled gearing, which is right here. So I got the knurled gearing right here. There's the inlet port for the filament into the hot end assembly. And then prior to that is this little switch. And so this little switch has a magnetic sensor. And so that magnetic sensor is disconnected when filament is being fed through it. And when there's filament being fed through it, it tells it, hey, I still have filament in the extruder. And so it's this little tiny bit of filament was causing my error. And so if I feed that back through, and then once it's fed through, you can hear that little snap. And that little snap is that magnetic sensor coming into contact. So again, once it's pushed off, there's the contact. It now knows that it has filament in the hot end assembly. And so it's this little tiny piece of filament was giving me the error. So now that that's removed, we're simply going to reverse the steps and get this thing back into service. And so, yeah, pretty easy cut and dry. So I'm going to drop that assembly back in. Once that assembly's back in, I'm going to take those two smaller cap screws, the hex cap screws. Apologies for the weird angles that I'm working at. Don't need my hands to block it, but you know, here we are. And that second one, we're going to tighten that one down. Now, when you're threading these back in, you shouldn't get a whole lot of resistance. It should thread in nice and easy. If it's not threading in nice and easy, you're cross-threading it, and so you want to make sure that it's going in with relative ease. Once those are set, we're going to go in and grab a chunk of filament that I have just spare laying around. And then we're going to go ahead and feed that filament in through that shark bite connector in through, and you can hear that gearing for the extruder. And make sure it feeds all the way through, and I can pull it through just fine. Make sure there's no other blockages, but you know, we kind of confirmed that already. Because there is the filament cutter that's right here, and that filament cutter is snapping it off right before the hot end assembly. And so from here, we're going to go back over to the unit. We're going to reconnect the extruder wiring. Now, even though I don't have the glue on there anymore, but that's fine. I'm not worried about the glue too much. From there, as you can see, it's like we still have some of that yellow zoom in. Some of that yellow is still here inside the actual hot end assembly itself. So I'm not too worried about that because that's going to get purged out as soon as we get it reconnected and snugged back up. So I'm going to reassemble the hot end assembly. And for that, it's going to be making sure that we have it kind of lined up. And there's a cable guide. So I'm going to push that kind of into place, route the cables over. There is a cable holder that's right here. And so I'm going to set it so that we can have those cables routed for that cable holder without crimping the wires. There's one. And so each one of these sets of wires, one goes to the thermistor, one goes to the ceramic heater, and one goes to the fan assembly. My meat paws just don't work in here sometimes though. Once I have those cables routed, I'm going to take those long screws with the Loctite on them, and we're going to lock the hot end assembly back down. Again, when you push these in, they should go in with little to no resistance. They should seat all the way in until you can feel the thread, the threading coming, the contact, excuse me. Oop. And we're going to lock those guys down. Now, I'm not going to over tension them, but I am going to snug them up. Once that's done, we're going to go back through with our cables. You have the small 2-pin with the release adapter. That's going to go into its spot. You're going to have the fan module going to go into its spot. And then we're going to have the power for the ceramic heater into its spot. And there we go. We have successfully removed that filament jam in the extruder assembly. So now we're going to power the unit back up. And I'm going to grab a separate power cord because we're going to do it right here on the workbench. And the filament that I was using wasn't really that old. I'm kind of surprised that it is snapping as easily as it was. And so, again, it's like I work with matter hackers as my kind of like day gig. And it was matter hackers filament, but I don't necessarily know that it's the filament that was the like true cause of what happened. But that's okay. So now that's set, reconnect that PTFE tubing. Except I forgot to put the quick release adapter back in, so we can take care of that right quick. So I'm jumping ahead of myself. So I'll pull that front cover back off, put that up, pull that tube out. And I know there's some modifications that go into like this unit itself that I've seen that I was like, that's a smart idea. I've never really had a need for it per se, but now I'm like, well, maybe I should go ahead and invest the filament to create more of a quick disconnect. So and that's there to kind of just reinforce the guide, because the cross load and tension that gets put on Oh, Lord. Okay. So one screw fell on the ground. Where did the other one go? The screw fell on the ground. And grab my hand a shop light. Take a look where the other one went. That'd be funny if it dropped into here. I would laugh. Oh, I would not be shocked though. I don't know where it went. No, it didn't go down inside, so that's good. But where did it go is my question. So it would not be fun to fire this thing up and have a piece of metal screw grinding around as I'm trying to run print. Well, I don't even know if I have any spares of that little guy, so we may end up going over to the other Bambu and printing an adapter right now, seeing that I don't know where that one went. And yes, I do need to clean my X1 out. So you hear it rattling around. Okay. Okay, well, I don't hear anything rattling around. Maybe that one fell on the ground too, and I just missed it. That one there. Nothing. Nothing. Yeah, let me see if I can find a spare one in the Bambu spare parts kits. Never a dull moment in the garage. And so one of the things I really like about, you know, kind of establishing this channel is I'm really raw in my footage, where I'm not sugarcoating anything. It is all live. I'm not hiding anything. This is like any one of you guys or gals that are out there, and it's like, wow, I just ran into this problem. And that's kind of like the way that I want to keep it. This is, hey, here's a problem. I ran into this issue. How did I fix it? And so I'm hoping that that's what I can bring to kind of the market is everyday dudes and dudettes going through, running into issues, solving the issues, and then getting back up and printing with as little downtime as possible. Extruder. Spare parts for the extruder. I do not see this little screw. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna turn the unit upside down and we're gonna shake it just to see where this thing's gonna fall out at. Of course, it could have just fallen on the ground and I just missed it, but I don't know that I have any spare of this little socket head screw. Okay. So we disconnected it from power, move my frosty cold beverage out of the way. I'm going to put that on just for right now, and then we'll remove it here in a second. You go. Nothing. Very rudimentary process, I know. I don't see anything. Where did you go? Interesting. I have no idea where that little screw went. It had to have fallen on the ground if that's the case. I just don't know exactly where it would have fallen. I saw one, pick that one up. Don't know where the other one went. So here we are. God bless America. Okay, neither here nor there. I like the old Marine Corps acronym, Big Sky Little Bullet, and we're working with something completely similar, which is going to be Big Garage Little hex cap screw. I don't see the darn thing anywhere. Unless it went down into the blower fan, which is completely possible, but I think I would have heard that thing rattling around as I shook it. And I'm not hearing anything from shaking it. But you know what? It's like never a dull moment in the garage. See, we got like lodged somewhere. It's like the definition of insanity is like going over things over and over and over, expecting a different result.
Perhaps it belonged in my trash can. No. Let's see it on the garage floor anywhere.
If it did, it couldn't have bounced too far. I only heard the one impact onto the garage floor. A little tink, tink, tink. It's definitely not in the quick disconnect, so I think that would be up here somewhere, but I don't see it. I don't think I have anything that would work for this in my miscellaneous bag of 3D printer stuff. But it doesn't hurt to check. And if not, we'll take a look at what we can print as a replacement. That way we can get back into service, because, you know, I don't like downtime. And unfortunately, this is just giving me downtime, but hey, it gives me interesting video content that I can share with you guys about all my mistakes and or misfortunes. And hopefully you guys will not replicate them in the future. Because yours truly is an idiot. Kind of. I'll take that one with a grain of salt. I would laugh if it was like sitting in front of me the entire time. But alas, it is not. Where did that little guy go? All right. Well, we're just going to go ahead and run without it, and we'll see what happens. I might need to get some reinforcement, or again, I'll probably look at 3D printing something that'll help in the interim. For right now, I'm just going to go ahead and fire up the unit, and we're just going to go through a quick recal. And I'll look at those things later on. And I'm pretty sure that as soon as I get it up and running, the screw will mysteriously manifest itself. Or I'll find an extra screw in one of the spare parts bags. That usually ends up being the case. It's funny because as soon as I did that, I heard a ka-chunk. So what I am going to do is I am going to remove that PTFE tube. We're going to feed some filament in. We're going to ramp the temperature real quick to 220. Once that temperature gets up to 220, I'm going to feed some material through it. So a good opportunity to actually clean this thing out. One of my other concerns is I don't want that screw kind of rattling around in here with electronics and potentially cause a short. But again, I don't see it. Alright, we're going to feed some filament through. And so it's bit. We're going to run some extrusion at 220. Just to make sure we can purge the remainder of that yellow out. And we seem like we're extruding just fine now, so pop that top cover off, put this cable back in its guide. And we're going to back that out. We're going to ramp the temperature down. Now we're going to go power down the unit as soon as it comes down to temperature, and we're going to go set it back in its spot and wait for the screw to manifest itself, because I don't know where it went. No clue where it went, and I don't see any spares.
Rolling around on the garage floor, seeing if it like
Fell down here somewhere. I did not see it anywhere. Okay, so now that the temperature is down, we're just going to go ahead and power the unit off. Disconnect the power cable that I have over on the workbench. And I'm going to go ahead and reset the unit after I clean out all the poop that is behind it, because that needs to happen from time to time. And as you can see, we have a gigantic Skittles pile of goo and poo from the bamboo. Well, both bamboos. And that's a mix between PETG, PLA, and ABS, so I'm not going to try to recycle any of it. I'm just classifying it as waste and loss. Granted, it's not a whole lot of filament. So again, I'm not too worried about it in the long run. But yeah, it's just this little guy was the stem of all the problems. That little tiny piece of yellow filament that broke off in the extruder assembly. So, yay. That's all right. We're going to get back into business here in a minute and get this printer back up and running. And we'll look at printing out a new bracket for that PTFE disconnect that goes into the housing assembly. Now let's hand this camera back over here a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and drop that unit back into place. Phone out of the way. Cabling out of the way. Reconnect my AMS hub. To the AMS's. Reconnect power. Your short leads are going to go to these two quick disconnects, and I ordered all of these from Bambu Direct. And it's kind of shocking with how much market interest has happened with Bambu. And the inability to keep components in stock. It's like we've sold so many Bambus at this point for the X1 Carbon and the X1 Enterprise that everybody's looking at replacement parts blocks, and keeping the replacement parts blocks in stock has been kind of like a hard thing to do. Every time that we get spare parts in, those spare parts are selling out like hotcakes at Matter Hackers, and so it goes to show that like everybody's like stocking up on some of these things, even with the announcement of like kind of the end of life for the firmware and the security updates. They're like transparent, because it's like the printers just they're great, they're easy to work on, and they're not too difficult. Their wiki and their support, and in my opinion, has been fairly good. And I've enjoyed my 2 units. I mean, I enjoyed the first one so much that I bought a second one. The other 2 disconnects are all the way up here. One of them. Here. I need to get some cable ties to get these routed so that's a little bit more professional routing. That one's going to go here. And when you're routing these cables, when it goes into the EMS hub, it actually doesn't matter how they're arrayed or sequenced, because it's all just based off of motor drivers and the sensors that are inside the unit. And so now that I have those cables reconnected, TFE tubes reconnected, I'm going to give them the best kind of like angle into the EMS hub, reposition the unit, and fire it back up. All right. And so, because I just did a bunch of stuff to the hot end assembly, I am going to run through a recalibration on the unit just to make sure that it's got back into the vibration, calibration, the frequency, that everything is up and running. Hopefully I'll find that other screw at some point. It is not on my workbench, which means it's probably on my garage floor or stuck somewhere inside the unit. These 5 hangers are in a somewhat, or 6 hangers are in a somewhat usable condition. And it sucks because the job failed right at that 96% mark during a filament change. But we're going to get some of those jobs repaired, replaced, and reprinted. That way I can support my local watering hole. And it's like I'm not sponsored by my local watering hole at all. It's just I love the product they create, and I'm happy to help the owner and the team out there with whatever they need, because the more that they stay in business, the more I can get some cold, refreshing beverages. Speaking of which, alright, so now we're going to go through a recal. And it looks like everything's good, and it's reading all 4 of the AMSs. Just checking one of the filament spools on each one. Looks like I may have a piece of filament broke off inside on my sky blue. Come on. Again, it's one of those like never a dull moment things. Some of this filament has just gotten brittle. You know, is that because I just haven't been printing enough with it, or what? I mean, it's all PLA. I may need to tear apart this AMS in order to get to this. Awesome. Fun event number 2 for the night. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect that unit. Go ahead and power off the printer. Disconnect cable 1, disconnect cable 2. All right. Fun times to be had by all. It doesn't feel too bad. I know the parts that actually had the knurling through them were a little wonky. And as you can see, this is my CMYK arrangement for lithophanes. See that? That's the issue right there. Is look how quickly that little bit snapped off. And so that feels fine, but that little bit right there, where the knurling is pinched into, it became really, really brittle. I think it may be what's happening with the BTFE tubing on this one. That feels fine for the magenta. And last but not least, our Silky Rainbow. And our Silky Rainbow actually feels pretty fine too. So in here, we're going to have some filament stuck in a PTFE tube. All right. Adventure number 2 for the night. I'm going to readjust that camera. First, I'm going to disconnect that chunk of PTFE tubing that comes out of the back of the unit. And so is this one? Yeah, so this is my one that I actually printed the Hydra AMS adapter for. And I haven't really needed to use the Hydra AMS adapter. It's like the only one that I have with the Hydra AMS installed, and so this is the one that I completely disassembled and rebuilt. So we're going to remove those rollers. Set the rollers off to the side. Take that up. disconnect this one PTFE, and there's that bit of blue that snapped off. Oh, that is really, some of these sections are really, really brittle. And so in here, I'm going to grab a set of 0 snips. And those 0 snips I'm going to push in on that PTFE shark bite. And I'm going to pull come on. Pull that PTFE tubing, and so you can see that there's the blue filament that's stuck in there. And it's not brittle on this section. I don't know why those junction points are just being so finicky and brittle. So once I have those removed, I'll reroute that PTFE tubing. Get that first section locked in. I'm going to feed it through the adapter sections and then into the other shark bite connector. Give that a tug. And while I'm at it, just to make sure that there's nothing else stuck into any of the other 3 PTFE. And so this is the Hydra AMS module. And so I printed off 3 of them, but I only have 1 installed on one of the units. That way it's like, you know, if you have some of those spools that require a larger diameter size for the actual spool itself, it's a nice to have. Oh lordy. And so I'm getting the control board attached to the power assembly. Check the other one, make sure that we still got that connectivity. Grab screw 1, screw 2. Take that back into position. And check the alignment of the screw holes. It's just because of those two PTFE tubes are a little extended, which is fine. Rechecking the alignment. And drop in. And so the Hydra MS adapter, you can download that from a couple different spots, but it's made by Hume Bean. And Manor Hackers has a authorization with Hume Bean in order to work on sales of those. And you know, for me and for some of the individuals that are out there, it's going to be easier for them just to pick up one that's already, like, you know, pre-printed. They can do the disassembly of the AMS unit and then drop the unit in place. It does require like a little bit of disassembly of the entire AMS in order to get the Hydra adapter in. Once the Hydra adapter is installed, it's pretty rock solid. One of the other things I was looking at printing is actually desiccant holders for the unit itself. And so I might work on printing those here in the near future and then going through an install video with you all. Not everything goes 100% according to plan. And so that's why we pivot, adjust, fix, repair, you know, garage tinkers doing garage tinker things, which I enjoy. I absolutely enjoy it. And so it's like, do I take it with like a, oh man, it broke again? No, I don't. I take it with a, well, we had an issue. Let's look at how we can resolve the issue. That way the issue will no longer manifest itself in the near future. And if it does manifest itself, I know how to repair it. And so I'm just putting getting my CMYK just initial feed started. That's brutal. So grab some 0 snaps. I'm gonna take some off of this. Yeah, we got those back loaded in. Got this connected back up. Adjust the camera real quick. Here we go. One, connect two, connect PTFE. Slide into place with the other AMSs. Refire the unit. Okay. All right. Clean up what we have. And then we're going to get into our next task. And our next task is like something silly. And so, my daughters, they love unicorns. So we're going to actually start a calibration. Actually, we're going to go through a full device self-test and calibration. Number next, we are going to work on repairing an alicorn. And so this is my youngest daughter's alicorn. So an alicorn, evidently and unbeknownst to me, is a Pegasus, which is a pony that has wings, and a unicorn. And unicorn, you know, has a magical horn on it. And so in my daughter's play with each other earlier this week, so snapped off the unicorn horn of the alicorn of this little guy. And so we're going to work on a quick repair with some super glue. Super exciting, but you know, that's what garage life is all about, and that's what dad life is all about, and that's what hashtag girl dad is all about. And so I have a little of my super glue here, and we are going to repair the alicorn. And so they were playing, and it got dropped on the floor, and when it got dropped, it literally got dropped right on the horn. The horn just decided to snap off. And so maybe the alicorn didn't want to be an alicorn anymore and just wanted to be a Pegasus. Who am I to judge and or ask why or why not? Neither here nor there. One of my favorite sayings. We're just going to apply a little bit of super glue. And we are going to re-alicorn the Pegasi to make my daughter happy. That's my youngest daughter. She's 4 years old. I can't fault her. But it was a very, very traumatic event when the alicorn lost its unicorn horn. And just like that, we've got daddy brownie points with a 4-year-old who's awesome, but can also be a ball of emotion. All right. What sounds good for the next job to work on? I guess one of the things we can get into is once we get this calibration done and out of the way. I did print off some more honeycomb storage wall trays because I evidently can never have enough of these, so we'll set Mr. Alicorn off to the side. We'll work a little post-processing. And this is I believe a direct drop in for the honeycomb storage wall without requiring too much pressure or force, and it'll just drop right into place. I just had a bunch of white PLA left over, so I get a monthly filament allowance through Matter Hackers, and I use that film allowance to really kind of go through and build my own projects. And I know that, you know, for the honeycomb storage wall that I have behind me, everybody's like, hey, you need PETG because of tolerances, or you need X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, I'm just running 3 kilo spools of Matter Hackers build polylactic acid in silver, because it's probably my favorite printing color that we have in our portfolio. But it's like the entire honeycomb storage wall is all silver PLA. Even the trays here, these are silver PLA. All the attachments and hangers, those are either in carbon fiber reinforced PLA from Bambu Labs or our Matter Hackers Build Series PLA. And so we got that printer recalibrating behind us, so it might get a little noisy. And while we're doing that, we're just working a little bit of post-processing for these tree form supports. And voila, there is one ready to go up on the wall, because I can never seem to have enough trays on my honeycomb storage wall. And then I can share the files and whatnot. And that's one of the next things I'm going to be doing is getting post-video links and everything established in the description for the channel. That way, everybody that's following along can go ahead and pull those same model files down and print them accordingly. I can even share like the specifications and the print profiles that I used for those printings. I'll leave that kind of up to the audience to determine, but a lot of these are just printed with the stock profiles that were recommended either on printables.com or Bambu's Maker World, and if not Maker World, Thingiverse. And so those are the three primary sites that I usually go to, is Maker World, Printables, and Thingiverse. I know there's a couple out there. I think even Matter Hackers has one that they have established, and I haven't played around with it too much, and I need to kind of go back and take a look at it. Might need to do a little bit more processing on it. One. And the other tray. I forget where I was going to put that other tray at. But we'll find a good foam for it right here, because why not? Seems like a logical place. And it's like, these are great because it's like, yeah, I can just drop a tape measure in there if I wanted to, or insert anything else. But one of the things I was looking at was actually some of the GoPro spare accessories and whatnot, that we have them kind of readily and easily accessible. Is that power cable? One of the things I did print out, and I printed out quite a few of them, are these little just cable attachments and for cable organization. I have these kind of in my cable drawer, and I'll go through my entire kind of garage setup with you guys in the near future, because I have been kind of disorganized in my garage for the longest time, and now I'm at a point where, hey, I'm professionalizing the garage and making a little bit more out of it. And as I'm making a little bit more out of it, I want to showcase that, hey, I'm 3D printing all of these things. You can 3D print them too. We have the equipment, we have the technology, and then really working on how can I capture all of these things that, you know, if you like my garage, I'm more than happy to help you replicate your garage in your makerspace. And it's just really, realistically, a phone call away. Like I said, it's really fun for me. Getting the cameras and everything set up and working some of these live feeds has been pretty rewarding thus far. I mean, I don't have a huge following yet. If I ever get a huge following, that'd be great. If I don't, that'd be great too. I'm not too worried about it, but I want to showcase, you know, everyday makers running into everyday maker problems, how to push beyond those, especially when you're working on things like fixing alicorns for your kids when something breaks. And then how can I take that excuse me, how can I take that and turn it into hashtag best dad ever? Because, you know, am I the best dad ever? I would like to think so, but, you know, I strive to every day. And so it looks like my other camera shut off again, so we're going to go ahead and get the top-down camera reconnected. So our self-test is complete. Network error. Stop that camera. Start live. And certainly for my setup, most of my issues that I've been having, I think they're all network related. And I think if I take one of my Google Nest, my Google Home Wi-Fi or my Google Nest Wi-Fi hubs and bring it down here to the garage just to boost the signal for my mesh Wi-Fi network throughout the house, that'd be probably beneficial. the other thing is like, man, I'm cheap. And so it's like I'm running on the slowest of slow internet connections. I'm running just a standard like 100 or what is it? I think it's like 400 down, 50 up network connection. I'm not running any of the gigabit or uh, fiber optic network connections because it's like, man, I pay $49.99 for my internet service and it's worked perfectly fine up until this point. Maybe once I get into more streaming or I need to have more of a broad network array, I'll look at jumping into it. So let me refresh that other camera. And so we pull our top-down feedback in. And it's great because I mean, even right now, if we go to my Samsung display with my crummy $49.99 a month internet, I'm still pulling an excellent signal, and so I'm not too worried about it. And I see my camera slowly like panning down and adjusting, which is interesting. I don't know if that's the motion control that's doing that or what, but yeah. I don't know. It's on a fixed mount, so that fixed mount is actually attached to my overhead garage storage. I printed out some arms, and those arms. Let me hand this camera over. So that's all 3D printed, and the cable's running across, and it's going over to a power outlet. But this thing has actually been pretty easy, and it cost me like, I don't know, like $4 to print. And so each one of the joints, the black joints that are all printed in carbon fiber reinforced PLA, and then the arms themselves that are all in carbon fiber reinforced PLA. The ball joint here, that's in carbon fiber reinforced PLA. But it's like I haven't had too many issues with it, so it's like one of those things I'm not really worried about. If I do need to worry about it, that's fine. I'll adjust it as necessary in the future. Alright, so the self-calibration is done. We're going to go back and we're going to work. No, the self-test is complete, so now we're going to run through a calibration. And then we're probably going to jump into getting that print that failed restarted. And then hopefully the filament padding this time, a piece won't snap off in the extruder and I don't have to tear the hot end assembly apart and lose more screws, because I still have no clue where that one went. It's got to be on my garage floor somewhere. I just don't know exactly where. The printer seems to be in fine operation as it stands right now. And I'll probably go through the junk bins of screws and everything at the office at Matter Actors HQ here in Lake Forest, California, and see if I can get a replacement screw scrounged up. So, yeah. For the remainder of tonight, it is now midnight 17. There's lots of things we can work on. There's lots of things we can do. We can start getting into like the teardown of one of the Ender 3 Pros in preparation for our boron builds. We could probably put together a ukulele because I've got all the parts and components to put together a ukulele. What else could or should we work on tonight? I lost my top-down video feed again. And so we're going to pull that up, and it says that it's still connected, so maybe I can just go ahead and go into OBS Studio and refresh that feed. Yeah, feed's still up, I believe. And wave my hand across here like magic. Yeah, feed's still good. I wonder why that's popping up. I'm going to run through the calibration on that other X1C. I could probably load some silver back up on the other printer and get another ukulele printed out. Or Just realized I'm... And so I've just realized now that my microphone has been off for the last, I don't know how long I've just been jabbering along. It's only been about 15 minutes maybe, so hopefully some of you guys didn't get too bored or won't get too bored when you watch this thing, because it's like there's nobody watching the channel right now. But then again, it is 12:27 on April 30th now, so just after midnight. Yeah, we're going to get into some other things here in a second. So let's go back to my GoPro wide. We're going to refresh that connection. Wide, we're going to refresh that connection. Alright, so yeah, I had some problems with the connection with one of the GoPros, but we're back up and running now. Connection with one of the GoPros, but we're back up and running now. Turn that microphone off because I keep having the wrong microphones on and off based off the scene, and I got to get better with my scene control. That's number one. Again, this has been kind of a really good learning curve for me in getting some of these first videos published, but it's like I primarily print everything in Matter Hackers branded materials, but I ended up going with some eSun ABS Plus just because there was a filament deal that was running on Amazon, and we didn't have one of the specific colors that I was looking for, which is lime green. And so when we get into our boron ender wire build, I wanted lime green because lime green's been like one of my all-time favorite colors like ever, and I really wanted to showcase kind of like lime green, and we didn't have any in stock at Matter Hackers, and so I had to outsource, and so they were running a filament deal, so I picked up a couple spools of the eSun ABS Plus, and I'm really happy with the material. Like if we grab some of the parts and components that I have printed out for the ender wire build. And so like these are both in the ABS Plus for the gray, and this is the ABS Plus for the lime green. And they just came out beautifully on the texture PEI plate. It's like it hides a lot of the layer lines. And this was with the recommended print profile from Sabur, who I have my printer kits sourced through. And so I'm really excited to get into the ender wire builds here in the very near future and get these captured on video. But yeah, the ABS Plus from eSun turned out really well. I did run some ABS, some eSun gray ABS for one of the first prints. And I burned through that, so I picked up the ABS Plus in gray, and then the ABS Plus in gray looks so much better than just the regular ABS. Let's see if I can get some parts and show side by side. And so, if we go to a direct side-by-side comparison here, it's like this right here is eSun's ABS Plus, or no, excuse me, the eSun's ABS, and then this is the lost my wide view again. And I think really it's going to come down to getting my network settings fixed here in the garage, because I keep having network drops between the cameras and whatnot. And so I don't know if that's just because of the internal network or if it's because there's so much content that's like going. And it's like there's nothing really happening on our network here at the house this late in the evening except for me here in the garage and maybe my wife streaming something while she's asleep. She likes to have a little bit of background noise. Love her to pieces. She's awesome. She is so awesome, and I could not have found a better person to share my life with. So, let's see. Retry. Get some height in. Make sure we're feeding. Retry. Alright, so we have grabbed the filament. Done. Alright. So now we're going to change scenes. Now I'm going to do some quick scene checking. Because this one we should have GoPro audio wide on. This one we should have GoPro audio wide without. Alright, so I need to figure out how to work the audio settings, or the advanced audio properties. I might have to get into the advanced audio properties to make sure that the scene that I'm working on is going to be the correct scene for the feed. Outside of that, I'll just have to pay conscious attention to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Bambu Studio, because I want to, as soon as this thing's done with its calibration, I'm going to start getting into a reprint. And I'm going to have to reset one of these spools. I know I am. All right. Alright, so we're going to go back through because this is where we kind of left off last night. I want to just get a couple of these printed out, then we can have them ready for Scott. But I want to try to do something real quick, and so we're going to go into Mesh Boolean. Come on, computer. You can do this. So I want to adjust these heights. And I want to adjust these as objects, and I want to make sure that I can have these objects individually set and reduce some of these height variances that we have. And hopefully Bambu Studio is not going to crash out on me, because we're just sitting here and spinning. All of the spinning. Alright, so back. So I'm going to ramp the temperature that I have on my second bamboo that's just running the spool off to the side. So calibration is complete. Oh Lord, come on, bamboo. Okay. Bamboo Studio just is not responding for me. Alright, so let's try this again. See if I can get the mesh boolean to load this time. Here is with hope. Because what I was hoping to do is I was hoping to use the mesh boolean in order to like use these individual parts or components in order to cut away sections so I can assign specific colors to specific items. But because I did not design these initial hangers and whatnot, it's proven a little bit more difficult, and so it's like I tried dropping it in and rebuilding the mesh in Fusion 360 last night with mixed success, or mostly failure, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that we can get into it tonight, and so it's like, yep, we have a crash in Bambu Studio again. So we're going to close the program, and so I'm going to try it one more time, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the object into parts and then build it, see if I can do the mesh boolean from parts. So we're going to split to parts, and so we have all of our parts assigned now. Now let's see what happens if I go to mesh boolean. Okay, so only positive parts will be exported, so let's Control Z on that, Control Z on that, make it a solid object. We're going to split, and we're going to split to parts. Actually, no, I want to split these two objects, and then I want to adjust these. This is where we kind of left off last night. Here we go. So now these are all on the same plane. And now I'm going to reset those where they're at. I'm going to fix the model, see if that can do anything. If it does, great. If it doesn't, great. I'm going to select all. And I'm going to Ooh. Alright, so it's not letting me do that. LZ. I want to select all. I want to select all. Come on. Yeah, I may just have to drop this in a Fusion 360 and just completely redesign it so I can get something that's going to be workable with multiple objects with multiple sections. I don't know. It's either that or we're just going to go ahead and go back to the default. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of this. And we're just going to add that new beer back in. And we're going to paint these by size. So I've got my green. Fill by height range, go with A1, and so we're going to set this to and so now that we have that set, now we're going to go to yellow, and color 2, same height range. Back to color 7. Right. I wish I could just reduce these down because I just don't like how bulky they are from the object. But neither here nor there, so we'll get out of the coloring. I'm going to turn off my prime tower. Enable, I'm going to turn off the prime tower. If there's a little bleeding color, I'm not too worried about it. So from here, and so I've had problems with stuff being on the actual Bambu label over there. So I'm going to move these guys up and over to the side. And then change these so we're off and running. So from here, still defaulted back to that. Alright, that's fine. We can work it, so make sure we have machine 1 selected, preview, that's set. Yes, I understand. Size is okay. X1 PEI. Size plate. Print plate, machine 1. We'll run the flow diagnostics and calibration. And hopefully we don't have any more, like I'm praying that we do not have any more filament breakage for this next go. And so, yeah, we'll kind of let that one start kicking it. It is now almost 12:51 in the morning. I'm kind of curious as to what to get into next. And I'm really hoping that once this channel grows, is like, you know, get a couple people in here and start looking at, you know, different things. People have suggestions. What would they want to see built? If they have questions. I mean, I'm happy to like share everything that I have or everything that I know. Which, I mean, isn't a lot, but it's not a little bit either. You know, I'll change the camera around here in a little bit, and then kind of figure something that we can work on for the remaining kind of like hour and a half that I'm usually up in the evening. I really should sleep more, but there's just, if I'm sleeping, I'm not doing things, I'm not building things, I'm not creating things, and that's like the thing that kind of irks me the most. Besides, it's like I'm never really tired unless I have, you know, like I've got the black lung, you know, and I have the cough or whatnot. And so I'm kind of getting over a little bit of illness right now, but I'm looking at growing this into something for people that are late at night and they have insomnia and they want to listen to the Bob Ross of 3D printing. I'd love to be the Bob Ross of 3D printing, because I mean, why not? So we're just watching kind of the Bambu doing its thing right now. I wish I could maximize that screen so you could see like all the crazy things that are happening right now. And hopefully that PTF YouTube isn't going to get like, you know, confuddled as we get further into the print. And I really hope that we don't have any filament breakages, because gosh, that was just rather annoying earlier getting and having to deal with that. So I guess what we'll do is we'll kick over to machine 2. So we'll go over to machine 2. I've got ABS loaded into the unit. We'll either go ahead and minimize that when we'll open up another instance of Bambu Studio. Device, we'll look at machine 2, check the camera. I have noticed that there's been issues with like the camera for it, and ooh, gosh, that looks gross. So we got a filament backup inside the poop chute, which needs to get knocked off, and so we're probably just going to close that because I've been having it preheated. So we're going to move that. We're just going to go ahead and home the unit. So it looks like some of that stuff got kicked out of the poop chute, but not all of it. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to go to our build plate preview, Bambu texture PEI plate. I'm going to go ahead and Gonna prepare, gonna pull in a model, and go to my downloads folder. Those ones haven't been updated yet, so we'll go back over to continue over for my work email. You know, that's Nick at Matter Hackers. Super exciting. We're gonna go from here to Maker World. And Maker World on my actual personal account because that's where I'm doing this from. And so we're going to go to Extruder PTFE. There's a couple different ones in here, and some of these look like they're using the factory screws. But I did want to pull this one down because I need to get a couple of these actually printed out because my PTFE tube from the AMS into the unit does need to be adjusted, and I want this to be a little bit stiffer, so I'm going to print these out in ABS. So we're going to open that in Bambu Studio, even though I have like multiple instances of Bambu Studio already opened. So, I've got 4 of these AMSs hooked up to my one unit. So I'm going to print out 4 of these little guys. Probably 5. Maybe 4. You know, it's probably super exciting for everybody, just kind of like watching or even getting into it later on. But, you know, it's like I'm just looking at it, and so this is ABS that I'm planning on printing with, and so because it is ABS, I am going to print it with a brim. I don't care that these objects are too close, because I don't think we're going to have a collision at all, just knowing where the tooltip pathing is going to go. It's all doing it layer by layer. Change it over to generic ABS. Look for brim. Adhesion Brit type. throw the rim on there, and so I don't want it to warp at all. It does warp, and it's a PTFE tube holder, so it's like not that detrimental. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. We're just gonna send it. If I bust my nozzle, that's fine. It gives me more of an excuse to go ahead and start working on the builds for the E3D Obsidian X high flow nozzles. And so we're going to go ahead, now that we got kind of both printers going, we're going to change over to our normal view, and hopefully everything's still working. I'll wave my arms around, make sure my camera feeds are good. Wave my arms around, make sure my camera feeds are good. Turn off that other microphone. We're going to GoPro wide. And so for here, it's like I've got spare 0.4 nozzles that are here. This is one that I had get damaged and bent about a couple months ago, and I've never really gotten around to fixing it. Because I do have the spare nozzle kits. I just got to take the thermistor off of it, the temperature sensor off of it, and whatnot. Rotate that one right quick. But for the E3D high flows, and so here we've got our E3D high flow, and I'm really excited to get these ones built. I picked up all the parts and components from Bambu Labs direct, and so these all come in like 3-packs, which is fine because it's like I picked up 2 of the E3D high flow nozzles, one for each of my printers that I'm going to install at some point once I have the current nozzles on the printers fail. And I'll get these bad Larrys built and set up, and so it's like I've got fan assembly for each. I've got thermistors, and so I picked up a 3-pack of thermistors, a 3-pack of the ceramic heaters, a 3-pack of the fans, all the accessory screws for them, all the mounting brackets that are required from E3D. So each one of the E3D nozzles came with one of these handy packs that comes with the silicone sock, the thermal grease, and the mounting screws, and the stainless steel sleeve to lock the ceramic heater on there. And so in a video here in the future, we'll go ahead and get into the build of those, because I'm really excited to get these 2 up and running, because I've had some contacts with a few guys that have these printers, X1Cs and X1Es, and they say that the E3D high flow is a game changer. And I'm lucky that I bought mine through Matter Hackers when I did, because as soon as I bought my 2.4 nozzles, it's like we sold out of them. And I'm hoping that we get stock back in, because we're running a little bit of a back order on them, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, and I want to get this old 0.4 nozzle swapped out, because as you can see, I got a pretty good bend in there where it had a collision. I'm going to print and then get those parts and components set up with another one. And so I printed these trays out as just kind of holders, but again, I've got a 0.2 nozzle that I picked up from Bambu, and I picked this one up a long time ago, prior to Matter Hackers even onboarding Bambu, and I've got my 2 spare hot end assemblies from the factory when I got these packages. So these are my 2 ones that came with the units. This is a spare 0.4 hole assembly that I picked up. I got my 0.2 assembly that I picked up. I got my 0.4 E3D high flows that I want to build. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting all these set up and built. And of course I got my good old Gridfinity containers for them. And the Gridfinity containers, they do snap into two pieces. Where you have the top tray, which if I pull this out, I've got the top tray, which is the actual holder, and then underneath is cable storage. But it's like I run Gridfinity pretty much in all of my drawers for the most part. That's 0.4, 0.4, 0.4 high flow, 0.4 high flow, and 0.4. And of course, I still have my factory 2 nozzles that came with the printers. Excuse me, still on the printers. And so we'll get into build on these one of these nights. Well, for the time check, it is currently 1:06 in the morning, and I don't know, what should we work on? Should we put a ukulele together? Should we get a few things set? And so it's like my ukuleles, I've got all my ukulele components here. I've got enough to build 5 units. I've got all the bases and everything established. I've got the necks, I've got the heads, all the tuners, these are in black and white. I've got the fretboards, and so these are all gonna like be really, really fun builds, but as you can see, it's like I've got my ukulele, the head's gonna go on, fretboard will go on. I've got all the parts and components for the tuners, for the bridge, everything. And so these ones are all going to be great. Or it's like Matter Hackers build in silver, Matter Hackers build white, Matter Hackers build in black. The only thing that is different on these ones is the actual tuners. And so the tuner assemblies, probably pull all of these out. These are the only parts that are not printed in Matter Hackers build, because it's like I tried a couple different ones and these kept snapping on me like you would not believe. And so I ended up using the Bambu Labs carbon fiber reinforced PLA to print the actual tuners themselves. And so the tuners, they sit up in the head, and those are what connect to the actual ukulele strings to work the tension down for these. I pull one of the ukuleles I got behind me. As you can see, it's like I've got the entire tuners, and the entire tuners are all 3D printed. And so the entire unit is fully 3D printed. And so this one is tuned, and it's like I've got this set in Matter Hackers Silver PLA, I've got Matter Hackers Light Blue PLA, I've got Matter Hackers Silky Gold PLA, and it's fully 3D printed except for the 17 screws. There's one screw that goes in between the head and the neck, and then each one of the tuner assemblies is 4 screws each. But these are really fun to print, and they're really functional. They sound great. So if we like go ahead and jump into it. And so my goal with these little guys is I want to start working some of the production on them and actually donate these to local schools. And as I donate these to local schools, they cost me about $6 to make a ukulele with my filament allotment that I have month over month with Matter Hackers. And so a really low cost solution to bring musical instruments into K through 12 music programs. And I'm really, really excited to kind of bring that to fruition as a nonprofit. So, yeah. But great learning, and I can share some links, and that's the next part of my thing that I got to get going, is how to link these things and how to start work search engine optimization. But the designer of this I actually found on Printables, and it's a gentleman by the name of Jeff. And so Jeff has been a great source of inspiration for me, because it's like I have my actual ukulele over in its carrying case, and I can pull that one out. And so the backstory on the ukulele is I've had my ukulele for about 13 years, maybe less than that. And I ended up picking this one up at Costco quite a few years ago, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna learn how to play the ukulele. And I never had the time or the opportunity to really like give to it while I was in the Marine Corps. And I wish I had, because man, I could have just taken this thing with me everywhere. But after I did my entire like garage revamp into a studio in order to start working kind of these videos, I ended up going through and in the cleanup process found the old ukulele. And then one night it was like, you know what? I have never touched it. It's been sitting in the garage. If I'm not going to learn how to play it, I'm going to donate it. And so I spent a couple evenings after the garage was kind of getting set, and I was working on printing out all the hex tile walls for the honeycomb storage system and all of my tray organizers with the Gridfinity system. I started going through a 10-day online ukulele starter course. And boy, was that ever fun, for one, but it sparked the imagination to start looking at, well, if I can make and play and learn how to do the ukulele, why can I not just 3D print them? And so I started, I came into the house one day after I spent a couple nights learning how to play the ukulele in the garage, and walked in one day with the ukulele, and my daughters were sitting there on the couch on a weekend, and it's like they only get tablet time or electronic time on the weekends. And so it's like that way, you know, mom and dad can have a little bit of sleep-in time. But after learning how to play and I was comfortable with it, I brought it in one morning and I started playing You Are My Sunshine to my daughters. And they were so enamored with it. They're like, can I have a ukulele too? And I was like, well, let me see if I can 3D print one. And so that turned into 3D printing a couple of ukuleles, one for each of my girls. And then after 3D printing ukuleles for my girls, they really were like, well, I ended up syncing with one of my neighbors because they were using ukuleles as a musical teaching method for their school. And so it's like, yeah, the ukulele is the training vessel for music. And it's like, well, if I can 3D print these for my girls, why can I not 3D print them for school programs? Because it's like they were at an impasse of, do we buy our son a ukulele, or do we borrow one from the school to kind of help with his music education and arts education? And so it's like, well, I'm 3D printing these for, you know, the girls, and they're in production right now. Which turned into the thought of, well, what about if we establish a nonprofit and start mass producing or mass printing these ukuleles in order to donate them to local schools to you know, lessen the burden on the school for their budget, and provide a 3D printed application where we can teach, you know, science, technology, engineering, academics, and, you know, start looking at the manufacturing process. How do we get today's youth into the manufacturing? And so, you know, that goes into like what I would like to call the master program. So mathematics, arts is what our key focus is on. Science, technology, engineering, and the 5 R's would be, you know, like reproduction, replication, reverse engineering, reimagining, and oh gosh, the 5th R is escaping me at the moment. But I mean, you get the idea. If we can start having 3D printers in schools, which several academic institutions have 3D printers, why can they not use these tools with simple polylactic acid materials with some $1.72 ish, which is the cost that I can get the ukulele strings, with 50 cents of super glue and 25 cents worth of screws, and start bolstering music education through arts in scholastic programs. And so that's kind of like the basis for where I was like, hey, if we can start this as a nonprofit, how can I get these from a scale to production to support academic institutions with music? And so I'm really excited about it. I'm hoping to launch a nonprofit probably this summer before the next school year. Again, that's, you know, just months around the corner, and then leverage what I have established with Matter Hackers in order to kind of help bolster the program and see how we can really engage students in 3D printing to support arts, because it's not just engineering applications, it's the art application that we're looking for. And it all happened with my redesigning in my garage into a studio in order to create content like this. And so really happy if we have, you know, some followers and some subscribers and like some recreation. So maybe that is going to be like the next video, is actually getting into how to build a ukulele that is 3D printed. And I've got tons of footage from the Bambu for the printing of these things, and how they go together, and how it will be assembled, and how it will get tuned, how to let the guitar or the ukulele strings settle overnight, and then retension, and then get into a full use production model of what I would call a 99.995% tuned and usable soprano ukulele. Might be a little out of tune, but that's okay. Well, we can work on that. Yeah, super exciting. Anyway, I'm probably going to sign off for the rest of the night, but for those of you that do catch the channel, thanks for tuning in to Nick's Late Night Garage. It is currently 1:19 in the morning, so I might crash out a little bit early because I am still feeling a little bit under the weather. And one of our future videos will be getting into a full ukulele build. And I can, if I ramped production, once I get my 2 ender wires put together, we could probably produce between 5 to 6 of these ukuleles a day. And so, yeah, hoping to, like I said, launch a nonprofit over this next summer season and burn through a ton of Matter Hackers filament at the same time, and reduce cost and make some fruitful things that will be beneficial to arts and STEM education, and get kids ingrained into what U.S. manufacturing should look like through reproduction, replication, reverse engineering, reimagining, And yeah, it's going to be exciting. And we'll save those for some future videos. And anyway, Nick here from Matter Hackers, but from Nick's Late Night Garage, and we'll catch you next time.